Hi, everyone. I want to welcome you to our virtual teaching kitchen with our Dishing Up Nutrition program. I'm Nicole Franklin, a registered dietitian with American Oncology Network, and I am joined today in her kitchen by Madelyn Wilcox. Hi, Madelyn.
Hi, Nicole. Thank you so much for the introduction. And thanks for being in my kitchen with me. This is very exciting.
I'm excited to see what you've got in store for us.
Yes, so today we're going to be making a warm pumpkin smoothie. So, with our nutrition series lately, we've been doing a lot of smoothies. And I think last time we said, well, what happens if you can't really have cold, right? Or just with the seasonality, maybe you don't want something super refreshing and chilly. Maybe you want something a little bit warmer and kind of nurturing. So, that's what we've got planned today. So, I hope you're excited to join me and make this. It's very quick. It's a very quick recipe, but very nice and nutrient dense. So yeah.
Yes, it is. It seems like a great pick, and we're always looking for ideas about how to get these smoothies warm or to change up the flavor profiles.
Exactly. And we're going to be able to do a lot of that today. So the base recipe has ingredients listed. However, I'm going to change it up just a little bit to show that there is some flexibility with these ingredients that we're seeing on, recipes we find on the internet or given to us from friends or family. And especially for our patients who maybe need some taste alteration work done or some taste alteration work done or an elevated amount of calories or protein, we can definitely make that happen with recipes like these. So I'll get started. The ingredients are pretty basic. You're going to need some pumpkin. I actually got a 100% just, and hopefully you can see it, pure pumpkin. You may see it listed in the store as pumpkin puree. The main thing we want to make sure is that the only ingredient in it ideally is just pumpkin. So we're going to start with this and then also some milk. So the recipe calls for a half a cup of unsweetened almond milk. This time I'm actually going to be using some full fat coconut milk. And Nicole, I know that with patients, we're always, at least in active treatment, trying to sneak those extra boosters in there. Do you use coconut milk quite a bit in order to do that?
It's a great source of calories, and it's got a good flavor.
It does, yeah. And it's really rich. And I'm actually, you might see that I just poured my can into a
Mhm,
mason jar. I kind
mhm.
of do this as a little trick because it's easy for it to separate in the can. So by shaking it, you actually get it all to one kind of consistency. And then you can use it for your, half cup.
That's a great idea. I'm always looking for a good kitchen tip.
Yes.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
If you
So
didn't like coconut milk, what else could we use?
oh, you could use, so the recipe is unsweetened almond milk. You could use an unsweetened soy milk, which would actually contribute not only more calories than the almond milk, but more protein. You could use just a regular whole milk, especially if you're someone who doesn't have any sensitivities to dairy and you're just looking for a high protein and a high calorie liquid, kind of making the most of your sip. Something like that, but really any liquid that you feel like you'd like. I actually, if I was trying to make this a little bit sweeter than it already is, I was kind of thinking apple juice, even for something like this, like 100% apple juice might make it very, kind of bright as opposed to a little bit more, creamy as these milks will do. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah. So like we said, we've got pumpkin and milk. We're going to start with a half a cup of our coconut milk. And these two ingredients are going to go right into your little just baby saucepan. So I'm going to pour that in. And then it also calls for the pumpkin, like I said. So roughly about a cup and a quarter. You can be pretty general. You don't have to be right, on the mark with that. So I'm going to use my same half cup little measuring, and I'm just going to do about two and then a little bit more for that quarter. So pour this right into the pan. And I actually, when I was preparing, this recipe earlier in the week, it heated up very quickly. So it's not going to be super labor intensive. And you could also, if you've got some help, have someone do this first part for you. And then when you're ready, just, kind of stick it in the microwave or put it back on the stove once you want to prepare it as a warm dish. We know that always is helpful for our patients. So that was about a cup. And then I've got a little bit more here that I opened for that last quarter.
I was just at the apple orchard and I was noticing pumpkins are getting ready. So
Yes.
I'm excited to bake some and have a little bit left over.
Yeah. So as you can see, it's just this nice little mixture. I'm going to go right
Hmm.
over to my stove here that's on and just
And
kind of heat it up for us. Okay. So we're going to talk about the next part of it because there's just one more thing that goes in that pot once it starts to boil, and it's the spices. I know, Nicole, you love to use spices as much as I do. What are some of your favorite ones this time of year?
I love a good nutmeg.
Yes,
Fresh nutmeg grated on acorn squash is one of my favorites.
that sounds delicious. Yeah, I don't have any fresh right now, but I do have some dried ones, which are pretty nice for patients to kind of just buy once and keep on hand for a longer lifespan. This recipe actually calls for cinnamon, allspice, nutmeg, and ground cloves. So I don't have the cloves, but what I do have is actually a pumpkin pie spice. And again, there's no added sugar in this. It's just cloves, ginger, allspice, and nutmeg. So if you're trying to kind of buy one thing versus four other spices, look for some of these pre-made spice mixes. So that's a little tip that I have for our listeners today. So I'm going to actually use just this for the sake of kind of time and ease. And the recipe calls for about 1/8 of a teaspoon with dashes of some of the other things. So I just kind of bulked it all together and said 1/4 teaspoon of this pumpkin pie spice.
And while it's simmering, I want to talk just a minute about pumpkins, and those good winter squash. They are, they have carotenoids that are combining with vitamin C, and that makes winter squash a powerful choice for healthy cells and a strong immune system.
Absolutely. And we always talk about our list of, foods that fight cancer from the American Institute for Cancer Research. Winter squashes is actually on there, isn't it, Nicole?
It is. They've even cite recent studies where they show that higher blood levels of carotenoids are linked with a lower risk of overall cancer.
Really? That's awesome. So another win
Yeah,
for the plants, right?
exactly. And what I like about it is the color. So even if you don't necessarily like pumpkin or you don't have pumpkin, you could certainly use sweet potatoes, don't you think?
I was actually thinking that too, or butternut squash, right? So some of those frozen like cube bags of butternut squash, or yeah, just buying it and cooking it. There's a lot of variation to this.
I agree. And that looks beautiful.
I was gonna say, I want to show you the color. It's got this beautiful golden color to it, and it just kind of
Mhm.
mixes up. And the goal isn't to get it, I guess like piping hot. It's just to get a little bit of a rolling boil and see some of those bubbles come up until everything's a little bit, just coagulated. So I think I'm just gonna do this for a little bit longer, maybe like 30 more seconds. And then we'll get to the next step, which is actually pretty much the end of the recipe already. And it depends, I guess any type of blender you have. I think, Nicole, you have a food processor that you use. Some people may have a Vitamix or a Ninja, but I'm actually using a little NutriBullet today. But you just want something that you can put the warm mixture in and blend along with the last two ingredients. So I'm
I
gonna
think
put,
it's really important how you said you can make the temperature right for you. So if there's someone that prefers that kind of room temperature or that cooler side of, warm, I think
yeah,
this is a perfect way to let them customize it.
yeah. And that's the beauty of cooking in general, right? Is just make it into something that you enjoy because, what's the point then if we don't actually really like what we're we're eating? So,
Yeah.
but as we know, we can have some challenges during certain times of life and treatment as well. So yes, we've got our mixture in here. So our next step, it calls for 1/2 cup of yogurt. It says almond yogurt, but again, depending on what you have or maybe your taste preferences, you can switch that up. There are other types of plant-based yogurts like cashew yogurt or soy yogurt or coconut yogurt. I actually have a honey vanilla Greek yogurt right now. So I'm going to use that just for the sake of, using what we've got in the kitchen. And it does call for a half a cup. I just used my half cup measure, so I've got a third of a cup here. So I'm just going to do a pretty like heavy spoonful of that to kind of make it the full half cup. And
Don't ever let lack of ingredients stop you, right? If you've got the honey vanilla, use it.
exactly. And I think for our patients too that do need a little extra protein, considering trying to use either a soy milk yogurt or a dairy yogurt is going to assure you're going to get that extra protein, where some of those plant-based yogurts, unless they're infused with extra protein, might be a little bit shy on that. So I got my yogurt in here. We're almost there. The next step is 2 dates. So I brought dates just to show you. Because my yogurt has a sweetener, it's sweetened with honey already. I'm actually going to omit these, but I'm still going to show you how to pit them, because a lot of times you're going to see dates like this. They're in their whole form. You don't just want to put this whole date in. You're going to want to take this little top off, and then there's actually a pit in there. So I just kind of slice it, and then I take that part out, and then you could just throw it in. So like I said, I'm not going to do that just because I've got some added sugar already in my yogurt, which again is the beauty of customizing recipes, is you can choose what to add or where your swaps have already been done, and make that really honed into your flavor preferences and your taste preferences. Dates are a wonderful source of added sugar though, when you're trying to stick with more of those whole forms versus a lot of maybe refined added sugars. So definitely something to still have in the kitchen. Okay.
That sounds
All right.
good.
So it might get a little loud here, but I'm going to blend this all together and just show you how quick this all comes.
It looks like fall. Looks like a really good pumpkin spice latte with extra protein.
I just like to give it a little shake and make sure everything from the top moves down. And then another.
While you're blending that, it's a really good point that both the pumpkin and the date, if you choose to put it in there, are good sources of fiber as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And there's even more fiber to be added at the end too. So we've got some topping options upon serving this. So technically the recipe is supposed to be a smoothie, it says, right? But depending on how thick you got, I actually tried it in a bowl last night and it turned out beautiful, like a little smoothie bowl. So I'm going to show you kind of both ways what these could look like. And I think, Nicole, you told me last time, you encourage patients to actually use different glassware, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just the visual difference.
Yeah. What are some of the benefits to maybe serving someone a smoothie in this size or this size?
Well, if it's hard to drink large portions, when you serve a smaller amount in a smaller glass, it can help someone feel like they don't have that much to drink. They take a few sips and all of a sudden they're done. But the key to that is kind of coming back for more, sort of like you've poured some of your smoothie in a cup and now you're pouring some in the bowl, and then you may have another little bit down the road. So just coming back to that.
Yeah, no, I think that that's really important. And our desire for food might be different at different points in life. So we do definitely want to still encourage nourishment, but not do it in a way that's kind of off-putting. And sometimes I've found that with patients, just as simple as something like getting a big glass versus this can be the ticker there and make them either be able to eat it or not. So I want to show you guys kind of these 3. I'm hoping that maybe you can see them if I back them up a little. So we've got,
I can see it.
yeah, 3 very different preparations. So now depending on, what you're feeling, what you want to do, your energy levels, maybe it's easier for you to sip right now. You could just serve the smoothie like this and then be done with it and kind of go sit and relax and just get those calories, those nutrients in, very easily. However, if you are feeling a little pizzazzy, the recipe actually calls for some crumbled graham crackers on top, which I think absolutely can be very fun. It can be a nice treat. But as a dietitian, we always try and think of what are some of those really nutrient dense swaps we could make to get the same mouthfeel, but maybe a little bit extra bang for our buck. So I actually have some muesli, which is, I believe, a German whole grain cereal. It's got no added sugar. So like I said, I'm really banking on my yogurt's added sugar to kind of carry the sweetness. But if you're someone who needs a little bit, feel free to also drizzle honey on here or to have added those dates. So instead of granola, I'm going to actually sprinkle some of this on there. And then another great way to add calories very easily and extra heart healthy fats would be seeds. So I've got some chia seeds. I'm just going to sprinkle a little. I've got some hemp seeds, which can add a little extra protein. And then I've got some ground flaxseed for more of those extra calories and extra omegas. So as you can see, you didn't really add too much extra value, but when you look at the bowl, there's a lot more going on than maybe just this one. But it's definitely going to take a little bit more energy to, chew and kind of get this one down. And then lastly, if you didn't want to do the graham crackers, you didn't want to do the seeds, and you wanted maybe just something there, but something a little bit lighter, I did actually bring out some berries, which I think would be fun just to put a few on top. And now it's almost like a little, kind of parfait. And you would drink or eat this with a spoon, wherever my spoons are, as well.
This looks great. Thank you, Madelyn, for showing us how we can use smoothies to have something that is warm. We can get creative with it and use it in all kinds of ways.
Yes, absolutely. And I hope you enjoyed today. I know I did. I made a mess, so I'm definitely going to have to clean up after this, but I will be enjoying these first.
Thank you, Madelyn.
Thank you so much, Nicole, and look forward to cooking with you again.